Alright guys, I'm back at Replay Guitar Exchange again.
Welcome back, Jason.
Thanks, dude. I love being in this room right here. You know, I walk past all the guitars, and then now I'm in the awesome amp room. This used to be a recording studio, right?
No, originally, actually, kind of fun fact, we were going to design this to be a studio. So we treated the room for acoustics and whatnot, and then we decided, yeah, let's just make it an amp room.
So very cool amp room. So the reason why I'm here today, guys, I want to share with you 3 practice amps that will work for hard rock and heavy metal. So Cliff, I've been looking around, dude, and I think we got some practice amps in here, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got practice amps from all the different price points, from super beginner, very affordable, all the way up to like some of the higher end orange stuff. So absolutely, man.
Awesome, man. So let's get to hearing these practice amps. Now the first practice amp we're going to play through here is one of the more common practice amps, especially now these days here in 2021, and that's the Boss Katana 100 MK2. Now the next practice amp I'm about to play through is the Fender Mustang LT50. And those of you who have been following my channel for a while, you guys know I used to have the Mustang 4, which is just a bigger version of what I'm about to play through here. The third practice amp we're going to play through here is the Marshall Mars MG30 GFX. Now, this video was supposed to be just 3 practice amps for hard rock and heavy metal music, but I've actually got one more amp I want you guys to hear, and this is a little bit higher in the price range from the amps we just played through. But if you want to step it up to a tube practice amp, this is probably something you'll want to hear. The Orange Rocker 15. Now, I'd love for you to comment and let me know what your favorite practice amp was out of the 3. Actually, no, there was 4 that I just played. I'm going to share with you which one I would get. If I were to go out and buy a practice amp right now, which one I would buy and why. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to the folks that made this video and this content that you're watching possible. Cliff, dude, you guys are always allowing me to come in and shoot these cool videos and give my viewers awesome content.
Absolutely, man. You're a great guitar player, very talented, and your videos are awesome. We appreciate you just as much, so thank you.
Thanks, dude. And on that note, I do have links to Replay Guitar Exchange, their YouTube video, or the YouTube channel rather. That's in the description of this video. And I also have the link to their website. You guys take online orders. I know you've got a lot of places that do online orders, and sometimes people think of a local music store. They think of that and like, well, they probably don't do online orders, but you guys do that.
That's a huge part of our business, and free shipping. You can't beat it. So yeah, check us out, www.replayguitar.com.
So yeah, click that link in the description. That's in the description of this video. And Cliff, dude, thank you again, man.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jason.
So which practice amp would Jason choose if I had to buy one right now today? So just a very quick rundown here of what we played through. So the first was probably the most common and most popular practice amp for pretty much any style of music these days. I'm filming this in early 2021, and that's the Boss Katana MK2 100, or Katana 100 MK2. It's got all the bells and whistles. You've got multiple tones, it's all programmable, and you've got some pretty cool effects that you can play around with as well. So if you're looking for a practice amp that has all the bells and whistles and can be a one-trick pony, I mean, it pretty much covers every style and covers it quite well, then that's probably an amp you would like. Next, I played through the Fender Mustang LT50, and again, if you guys saw videos I did a long time ago, I used to have the Fender Mustang 4, which I really love that amp. I actually ended up donating that to a really good cause. So playing through this LT50 version, which is, again, it's a smaller, more compact version than what I had, it's still a pretty decent little practice amp, and it's got some cool little features to it. I mean, you've got different tones you can get out of it, it's programmable, you've got some effects. So for a practice amp, this is a pretty decent little amp as well. Next up, I played through this tiny little compact Marshall amp, the Marshall Mars MG30 GFX. Now, this amp, I will say, probably has the least amount of features, and even though you do have different types of tones with this amp, it's probably the least diverse in that regard. But it's also the least expensive out of the other two amps that we've covered up to now. Here's the thing about this amp, if you like the types of tones that you're getting out of it, and remember, again, this is just for practicing. We're not recording an album or anything or playing in an arena with this little amp here. This is just for practice, okay? But if you like the types of tones this amp provides, then you'll dig the amp. If you're not a fan of those types of tones for practicing, then it's probably not the right one for you. Now, the last amp I played through, the Orange Rocker 15, I didn't intend on putting this amp in this video of the 3, which turned into 4 practice amps for hard rock and heavy metal. And the reason being is because, first of all, it's a tube amp, okay? These other amps that we played through, they're solid state and they're modeling amps. Well, this is a true tube amp, and it's also in a completely different price range than these other practice amps. But I wanted to include it because, again, it is a small amp, so it can definitely be used for practicing. In fact, I believe the wattage on that amp is up to 15, but it's selectable. I think it's 1, 7, or 7.5, and 15, something like that. So you can get a decent tone at a super low volume. Now, I know you're waiting for me to tell you which of the amps I would personally choose. Well, there's actually 2 scenarios I need to throw out there to you. If I had an unlimited budget, or if I had just a bigger budget for a practice amp and I was willing to spend a little extra, I would definitely choose the Orange Rocker 15. I just like playing through tube amps, and when you can still get a decent tone or even a great tone at a lower volume, that's a big thing for me. And plus, with a tube amp, because it's tube, you could probably mic it up on a small stage and use it for smaller gigs if that's all you had. Scenario number 2 is I have a very limited and small budget for a practice amp. That being the case, out of the first 3, I would probably go with the Fender Mustang LT50. Now, I may be a little biased because, again, I used to have the Fender Mustang 4, which, man, I got some really awesome tones out of that amp. I've got tons of videos on YouTube with that. But the LT50 kind of mimics that a little bit on a much smaller scale. And you've got some effects in there. You've got a different array of tones in there as well. And I would say my next choice before the Boss Katana would probably be the little Marshall Mars amp that I played through. Now, I know that amp is much more limiting than the other ones we covered, but Me personally, I like that, especially for practicing. See, here's the thing about practice amps. They're made to just practice your instrument. You don't want something that's gonna have you carried away and going through all the tones and figuring out what sounds cool to you and playing with all the effects and bells and whistles to the point that you don't have a focused practice session, because tweaking tones is not how you get good at guitar. Focused practicing, that's how you get better at your instrument. So if you spend a lot of time going through all the bells and whistles and have this shiny object syndrome and this sounds beautiful, let me see what else I can program, you're not really going to get better at your craft. I'm not trying to deter you from getting something like the Boss Katana. I don't want it to sound like that. I think a lot of people have that amp, and I think it's a great practice amp for you if that's what you feel you need to practice. Some people like to have all the effects and that motivates them to practice more. But again, I need to reiterate that point that don't get so caught up to where you're tweaking tones on a practice amp, okay? To the point that you don't practice your actual instrument. All right guys, so once again, let me know in the comments which amp you like the best, and if you have another practice amp that you're using that you like, leave that in the comments as well. And don't forget to check the links in the YouTube description. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of meat and potatoes there for you. And until the next video, as always, keep it metal.